The following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of Oshkosh Media, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of On Oshkosh. I'm your host Cheryl Hentz, joined tonight by three folks who are going to be talking about a very worthwhile and wonderful project that's going on in the Oshkosh community. To my right is Eric Shae. Eric is a firefighter and paramedic with the Oshkosh Fire Department, and he has the pleasure of working with two young ladies from Oshkosh North. To my left is Hailey Engelmann, and to her left is Lauren Griswold. They are both part of the Oshkosh North Communities program, right?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. We're off to a good start already. So we're going to talk about the Oshkosh Fire Department's food and toy drive. This is something that goes on every year, and it's a really worthwhile cause. How many years has it been going on?
This year is our 20th year, so it's kind of a big year. Yeah.
Wow. I knew it was around for a while,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize 20 years already.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and what's cool about working with the Oshkosh North Communities program is that, you know, they're in high school now, and some of them being seniors, that this has been going on their entire life, and now
Yeah.
they have a chance to be a part of it. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And so they too get to see how it has grown and changed
Yeah.
over the years,
Yeah.
and how it's benefited people. Tell me about how much you guys have raised. If you know the numbers from last year, that's great.
Yeah.
But even to date, if you know those numbers.
Yeah, to date, I'm not exactly sure, but because we've just kind of kept records since 2010, actually, when we started partnering with the Salvation Army, is when we were able to keep more accurate records of how much we had coming in. But last year alone, we took in about 4,100 pounds of food, 2,800 toys, and $2,800.
How many? 4,100 pounds of food.
Correct.
And how many toys?
2,100 physical toys.
Wow.
And then 2,800 toys, and
Okay.
then $2,800 in just cash
Okay,
donations.
all right. And those cash donations, you know, one of the things people always say, you know, is, oh, I don't know that I want to make a cash contribution to an organization because I don't know how much of it actually goes to the cause, you know.
Sure.
And of course, you know, something like this, I don't know, but, you know, with other organizations, you've got to employ people in order to run the organization.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to have a certain percentage of the donations going to overhead costs and
Sure.
operational expenses. What is the case with this cause? Does 100% go to the people you're trying to help?
Well, we're a 501c charity,
Okay.
so it's a Oshkosh Firefighters Charitable Trust is where all the cash donations go into.
Okay.
So everything that comes in is used either to help run this event or other events, like in the winter we have our firefighters versus police hockey game. So some of the things that go along with that, and getting prizes and raffle prizes for that, and then the money from that gets donated also. But also the money coming into this drive specifically goes to fund two $500 scholarships for seniors at Oshkosh North and Oshkosh West.
Okay.
Two students that are going into the police and fire program after high school.
Okay.
The name of the scholarship is Gary Kasubi, and he was a former owner of the Oshkosh Fire and Police Equipment Store,
Okay.
and they help us out a lot with this drive, they are the ones that provide the antique fire truck that Santa rides on and help us promote the drive and things like that.
Do they own that antique truck?
They do,
or?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great store.
Yeah,
I go there to get smoke alarms and,
Yeah.
and fire extinguishers and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just because they're, servicing or giving you guys supplies and
Yeah.
the police department supplies doesn't mean people can't
No,
purchase
yeah, it's
things
an
from
open
there.
store to anyone.
Yeah, it's a great store.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of interesting, cool stuff there, too.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So where can people, this event actually kicked off on November 28th. We're taping this on a later date, of course, but how long does the event go?
We have 5 nights that we do. We break it down per station in the city, and we go through December 11th with
Okay.
those routes. So each, I believe we have one on December 3rd, December 10th, and then December 11th.
You are correct,
Yeah.
sir. I put them down here just to help me make sure. So again, December 3rd, which is a Monday, and now it says, the information I saw said station 16, and then it had stations for the other dates. Does that mean that's where they have to drop things off at, or can they take it to any fire station?
No, they can take it to any fire station. Like I said, we break it up by the stations because it's easier to just break up the city that way. And then our stations are pretty well laid out throughout the city to cover most of the city. We can't go down every street, unfortunately. I wish we could, but it just logistically won't be possible.
Yeah.
But we have the engine or truck from that station kind of lead the way, make some noise, get people kind of looking out their windows, if they don't know what's going on, and then they see Santa and the music, and then we go to the doors and collect what they have for donations.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you can't come to the route, or the route doesn't go by your house, you can drop it off to any fire station through December 11th, and we will make sure that those donations get to the Salvation Army.
Sure. And how many nights does the route go, where Santa's on the fire engine and so forth?
It's 5 nights.
5 nights,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
And what are those nights?
those are those route nights.
The same?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, gotcha.
Yep.
And so, I know it came down my street one year, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And then I saw,
Yeah, yeah.
So if people want to, I guess, how does this really work? Because, see, that you never know for sure which street you guys are going to be
Yeah.
going down.
Yeah.
So you may want to hang on to something at home just in case, all this activity is going on your street.
Yeah.
And then if Santa doesn't come by on the fire engine, then they would just have to take it somewhere. Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, that's exactly how it would work. All of our routes are posted on our Facebook page, Oshkosh Fire Department Food and Toy Drive, and then also on our Twitter account at Oshkosh Food Toy.
Okay.
So all the info is out on social media. This has been our 20th year. Obviously, this social media wasn't around back then, so we used to take out an ad in the paper and print the routes in there, but
saves you money,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it does
having
now,
social
yeah,
media
yeah.
around. And we've got that Facebook page too.
Yeah.
For those listening on the radio, it's Facebook. You go to Facebook, and then once you're there, you just type in Oshkosh Fire Department Food and Toy Drive. And I know that's a long thing, but if you just start it, it'll probably come up.
Yeah.
So, because this show's out on the radio as well.
Sure,
So, so we've got these 2 lovely students here, and I guess you guys are, as I mentioned at the outset, part of the Oshkosh North Communities Program. What exactly is that?
So Communities is a project-based learning program where we take learning from the classroom and we take it out into the community to help them see what we can do.
Okay, all right. What other causes have you guys worked with, or is this the only? Because you're sophomore, freshmen,
Yeah.
right? You're both freshmen. So you probably haven't been involved with other causes before, or have you?
We started the year with a project about Oshkosh's history of like some of the historic buildings, and now we're moving into the food and toy drive, and we'll be doing more projects as the year goes on.
Okay. It's so funny that you should mention history of some of the buildings in Oshkosh. Coming up in the new year, we've already taped footage of it, but coming up in the new year, we're going to have a show on just some of the historic buildings in this city, especially the ones downtown. So it's odd that you would mention that, but kind of ironic at the same time. So how did you get involved in this particular cause? Do all the students in the communities program work on the same project, or is it kind of split up? How does that work?
There's
We're split up into two groups, C1 and C2 students. C2 students are more upperclassmen, so
Okay.
juniors and seniors, and C1 is mostly sophomores and freshmen.
Okay.
And some of the projects are split up differently, so C2 students will do different projects, and then the C1 students will do different projects, but those are mainly the smaller projects. But for the bigger projects like the food and toy drive, we all go together and combine our
Yeah,
groups.
this is a big thing. So it's nice that you guys have, older students who can kind of serve as mentors, if you will. And then I'm sure you've got teachers who are involved in this also. So do you guys have any other groups or agencies working with you on this effort?
Yeah, the Salvation Army does. They're who, like I mentioned before, all the food and toy donations go to. They have a large distribution center that families, earlier in the year they apply, and then they go through their, application process of picking which families can go through their distribution center. And then I know this year it's December 18th and 19th. They're distributing the toys to the families. And the families actually take a shopping cart and go around. This year I believe it's at the Plant Fitness facility that was next to Pick and Save,
Okay.
or is next to Pick and Save.
Over on Jackson?
Yeah, correct. So they get volunteers to help out, and they go around and they pick age appropriate toys for their children. They also have some coats and hats, mittens, things like that. I know they can pick like a family game and a stuffed animal, and then the food that they can take home for their Christmas or holiday meals or whatever they have going on. So it's really a great program. I've been to the distribution center, but I've never been able to help out distributing. But it's on my bucket list to do because
Sure.
I hear it's just an amazing thing to see the joy in these families. Like, wow, we can really give this to our kids this year, and
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, well, and I'm sure since you're heading this up, that would be a natural thing for you to be there,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
not overseeing necessarily, but at least being a participant in it.
Yeah, yeah. And
So-
along those lines, they've reached out to us and said if anyone from the community, either can't donate or the route doesn't go by their house, they can call the Oshkosh office and they can see if they can help volunteer with the distribution, or they can go to registertoring.com, and they always need bell ringers. The Salvation Army.
Register to ring.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Registertoring.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And especially the weekends is a huge time for bell ringers. It really ups their donations that give, and those donations are given like to the Salvation Army as a whole. They don't just stay in Oshkosh, but obviously any money coming in there helps Salvation Army here in Oshkosh too.
Sure, sure. And so they go through the distribution center with a shopping cart, but there's a limit. Like you can't just come in and I want all this, and just fill up your cart and take off, right?
Yeah. We like I said, I've never been able to help out there, so I don't know the exact numbers on what they can take, but it's not like supermarket sweep where they just pour everything into the
Yeah, that
the
would be
cart.
interesting to see, but it wouldn't help a lot of people. I'm sure it would only help a select few.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So this is your first time doing something like this, guys. What are you learning about it so far?
Well, through our research, we've learned that like 1 in every 2 houses are struggling with like their basic necessities. So it's pretty cool to see how we can like help spread awareness to like make people want to donate to these kind of organizations.
Did you say 1 in 2 houses,
Yeah.
households are struggling with
Yeah.
to meet basic needs? Wow, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an astronomical number.
Yeah.
I don't know how many homes we have in Oshkosh. I know we have a population of around probably 69,000 people, but that's startling.
Yeah.
I mean, really, and eye-opening when you think about that. 1 in
Yeah.
2 homes. And what about you?
This project has been really, eye-opening, and it's just a great experience to work with everyone in our community to try to bring everyone together to help families in need.
Yeah, so it must be kind of, I don't know, enriching for the two of you and for you too, Eric.
Yeah.
Doing something like this. This is your first year heading this up. Do they change each year?
No, we kind of keep the same routes every year. I've been heading this up along with another coworker of mine, Brian Blaha, since 2010 actually.
Okay.
So
all right.
we
So-
kind of, know the gist of it. But for me, it's a very humbling experience to go
Sure.
around and just, being a firefighter and working in the city. Usually we go to someone's home on their worst day. They call 911 and they need our help. But
Yeah.
now we're going to them, to ask for help for others and to see them give back is just amazing. I
Sure.
mean, it's like every year I tear up when I'm out because sometimes the snow is falling and we have the Christmas music playing and you see the kids glassy-eyed looking at Santa Claus, and it's a really cool experience. And a lot of times people will they'll give you something and be like, I got to go give you some more, and they'll go grab some money from their wallet or something from their pantry or whatever and just give you kind of all that they have just to give to the cause. So
yeah, it is humbling, I'm sure. And it must be something for you guys, to hear those kinds of startling numbers. Before you got involved with this, did you have any idea that it was that bad in our community?
Not that bad. I knew it was not like great, but I didn't know it was going to be as bad as that was.
Yeah. Now, will you actually be part of any of the distribution or anything like that? Or what exactly do you guys do as part of this effort?
Well, some of the students and communities are spreading awareness through social media like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then others are walking the route with the firemen and the police department. And others are just trying to spread awareness through friends and family and getting everyone to know.
Well, that's a good idea. And social media, wow. I mean, like you said, when this first started, there was no social media, and it has just exploded. Yeah. So it's great to see how things really mushroom through social media, so that's a good thing. So, again, the collection started prior to this taping. There will be some more collection nights. It would be December 3rd, which is a Monday, then Monday, December 10th, and Tuesday, December 11th. So, if on those dates you hear a fire truck. Do you sound the fire engine?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we make a lot of noise.
So you make a lot of noise.
Sound the horn and the sirens. And
so if you hear that coming down your
yeah.
street, and you can spare a little change, or you've got maybe a gift that you've bought for this cause, or gifts, or food. What kind of food are you looking for?
Just non-perishable food items.
Okay, any non-perishable. Yeah. So boxed items, canned items, anything like that. If you hear the fire truck, come on out, and they'll be happy to take it from you. And if that doesn't work out, if they don't come down your street, you can go to the different stations, one of them that's closest to you, and they'll see that it gets to the people who need it the most. So thanks, guys, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Cheryl.
Thank you for all the efforts that you guys are making. It's tremendous.
No problem. It's a great thing every year that we do, and we thank the communities for all their help with it. It's been great. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking with a school board member, Allison Garner, about the school district and a book that she has written. So we will be right back.
It's not a charity. It's more than a charity. It's about helping people we live with. It's about being the type of person that the 6-year-old version of ourselves wanted us to be. It's about community and looking out for one another. It's about money, yes, but it's so much more than money. It's about friendship and common values. It's about opening doors when others are slammed shut. It's about giving kids a place to be kids and growing up knowing they live in a community that cares about them. It's about making sure that everyone gets to see the dentist, because we want to make sure that they have every last tooth in those smiles. Ultimately, that's it. It's about the smiles, old smiles and new smiles. It's about us, all of us, our community living united, because great things happen when we live united. Will you join us?
Oh no, did I miss the exit?
Hey pal, you look a little lost.
What?
You know your smartphone has GPS, don't you?
Yeah, but I'm driving right now.
Let's text your sister to see if she's texting. Okay, look, I'll help. I've got a map. Okay.
I am done with this distraction.
Not my hairdryer. Hey, no! That's distracting. Okay, I'll go.
Focus on driving, not the distractor.
Find me a new driver.
Get lost.
welcome back to the second portion of On Oshkosh. And I'm here now with Allison Garner. She is a member of the Oshkosh Area School Board, and she's a new author as well. And we've got, you can't see this very well right here, but we've got a graphic of it that we'll be putting up. She's written a book called Think Possible, The Light and Dark Side of Never Running Out of Ideas. And there's the wrap for the book right there. So want to talk about something not so fun. We'll get into the fun part shortly. But let's talk about the school board and the school district and things. Property tax bills are going to be coming out fairly soon. And as part of that, we see the line items, and the school district is one of them. What can people expect this year, Allison? Are school taxes going up, or are they coming down, or...
Yeah,
they're going up, it sounds like.
Well, and we haven't finalized the budget, so we're just in the process of. Last night, we even just had to so we set everything up in October. We don't know anything. We don't know our state aid. We don't know anything, property values. So we do our original, and then now we're making changes and shifts. So I'm not sure. Whatever direction it is, it will be small.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
So it may be a small increase, but as you said, it will be a small one.
I think so.
Not anything large. Well, that's good because, God, everything keeps going up except for people's incomes. They're not going up that much. Social Security, I think, is getting a tiny raise.
Are they?
I think. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Which helps those on fixed incomes. Yeah. And I'm don't quote me on that because I'm not exactly certain on that. Yeah. But I thought I read that Social Security was going up a smidge.
That would make sense because inflation is going to start.
But things never go up. People's incomes never go up the way things go up, whether it's energy or property taxes for police and fire and water and all that. I mean, nothing ever, it's not equitable that way.
Yeah.
And so it's always a challenge, for people on fixed incomes especially.
Yep.
Where are we going to cut and save a little bit of money in order to pay for this?
Yep.
So I'm glad that it's not going to be a huge thing, if at all. The district's report card also just came out, and the district did rather well overall. Yeah. Share with us the particulars.
So we I think originally last year we were meeting expectations at most of our schools, and we had a few schools that were not meeting. This year I think we only have one school that is not meeting expectation, and now our overall score for all of our schools is that we're above meeting. Mm-hmm. It's between the excelling and meeting. There's the one in the middle. I can't remember what that's called, but yeah, we've gone up. Our report card looks better, but for me as a school board member, that's one snapshot of a standardized test.
Yeah, yeah.
So part of me kind of it ruffles my feathers a little bit because it's just one little thing.
Yeah.
When we look at the whole district, I would like for us to really be able to encompass everything that we do.
Sure.
So, but the state has a report card, and our standardized test scores look better this year than they did last year.
Yeah. What's the one school, Allison, that didn't do so well?
I think it's Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are they're over 70% free and reduced lunch. So we've got a population there that has significant needs. Mm-hmm. They have continued to try to close those gaps. And I think that they are also a school that, I think they're called Beating the Odds School.
Okay.
So, when you have such a high population of free and reduced lunch kids, they still do really well.
Yeah.
But standardized tests, they do not. So,
yeah. Well, I think our school district, by and large, is a pretty decent school district.
Yep.
But there's always challenges. And,
yes.
For example, with Washington, what is the plan to kind of try to improve that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I know exactly what the plan is for that school because the report cards just came out, and so now we're just in a process of okay, now we got to digest all this information and move forward. So I don't know what the plan is at this point. I know as a district, we're seeing the needs of our kids going up significantly, especially in the arena of mental health. Mm-hmm. We're seeing behavioral things and some troubling things at younger and younger ages and higher intensities. And so I think as a district, we're going to have to do a really good job of making sure that we're not just focusing on this school because their standardized test scores are a little low. I think the whole district is really, and teachers are telling us, look, you know, we need more of something. We've got to like shift or move or tweak because we're all kind of struggling here.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the questions that I had next. It sort of relates to that. You know, I don't think we go through a week in our nation's news and history where we are not seeing an active shooter situation somewhere in this country, and frequently it involves schools. And I think schools, churches, other organizations, you know, they can only do so much. You know, what has the Oshkosh Area School District done to improve, or try to improve anyway, you know, the safety of not just the students, but faculty, staff?
So we have several programs. In fact, this year we just instituted an active shooter simulation down at Lakeside, where we started with the administration. I'm not sure if we've done it with teachers yet, but I know the administrators over the summer all went to Lakeside and they fired live rounds inside the building so that everybody would know what it sounded like, because we didn't grow up with guns inside buildings. So there's a lot of times where people don't really know what it is until maybe it's too late. So really, so that's a new thing that we're doing. We practice a lot of lockdowns. We're going to get more funding probably from the state to bring in more mental health professionals. But I mean, that to me, again, I feel like that's treating the symptoms. Our kids we know that they're more stressed out. We know that anxiety and depression it is growing exponentially right now.
Right.
And we know from the data as well as suicide rates and hospitalizations, we know that the adolescents all over the country, not just Wisconsin, are really, really struggling. So we can do things to try to keep people safe, and we can have cameras in our schools, which we do, and we have great relationship with the police department and the fire department and first responders, and we're doing all of the right logistical things. But at the end of the day, we have to really start thinking about how do we bring these kids in and have them learn how to cope and how to regulate and how to get through whatever it is whatever is stressing them out or causing them such angst.
Well, and you know, the school district certainly can't do anything about this. I think it is up to the parents, but I blame social media for at least a portion of what these kids are feeling these days. You know, there's enough problems out there that these kids have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then, you know, when I was in school, when you were in school, there were bullies, but they were few and far between. And, you know, once we left the school grounds, we didn't have to deal with them. Here, those bullies are coming right into these kids' homes, right into their bedrooms by way of social media. And, you know, that's not anything that the school district can do anything about.
See, I disagree.
Okay.
I would like to see us really, so you're right, and a lot of the data will show that in 2011, that's where we saw this major uptick in depression and anxiety among adolescents. And most social scientists say, well, there was really nothing terribly different going on in 2011, except that's when smartphones totally saturated the market.
Right.
So if there's a correlation, we think that we're more connected because now we can be on our devices and we can always be in touch with people. And what we're finding and what psychologists are telling us is that people feel more disconnected, more isolated, less belonging.
And that's talked about in your book also.
Big time.
Yeah.
So I think if our schools are places where we can start to create a system where there is belonging, where there is some types of tribes, like communities as a project-based learning, those kids they're a group and they work together on these projects and they have a sense of camaraderie, they connect with each other, and you know, if you look at their performance, they do better, and we have other programs like that in both of our high schools. Sure. So my theory is if we can get back to connecting with each other, which means maybe a different way of structuring school, that would be helpful.
Well, and what I was actually saying, you know, about school districts not being able to do anything about. I guess they can do something about it, but it's really up to the parents too to get in there and know what in the world their kids are doing online and on their phones, and if someone's being bullied, they should talk to their parents about it, talk to a teacher about it, whatever. But districts, your hands are kind of tied when it comes to mental illness too, because everybody after a shooting, Allison, always says, well, that person had this issue and they had that issue. And yet you can approach someone about these issues beforehand, but police can only and will only do so much.
Right.
Counselors can only do so much. I think we need to maybe change what our authorities can and cannot do, at least to an extent. I'm not saying everybody needs to be investigated because, they're angry one day or they're blue and depressed another day, But we have to be able to, I think, find ways to help these people and intervene at an earlier point, an earlier stage. And I don't know how we do that with HIPAA laws the way they are, and the other laws the way they are written and on our books. It's a fine dance. It's a fine line.
Yes. Yeah, and excluding and isolating will only exacerbate issues that are already present. And so what we can do is try to address those things.
Yeah.
When we have teachers that teach 7 or 6 periods a day and they have over 100 kids on their caseload, they're not connecting with those kids. They can't.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that they might, but they just can't. It's just a numbers issue.
Yeah.
But when we have these smaller groups where we have like 4 teachers and maybe 30 students, suddenly that feels different, and kids are connecting, and they are connecting with the adults and with each other.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid that is struggling and feels different and doesn't feel like they belong, and you put them into a place where they at least are part of a team or part of some kind of a smaller organization, it's a way to at least address it. And then if kids can depend on each other, and the culture where we rip each other apart and they're like roasting each other online, everybody thinks it's so funny. Like, if that's not tolerated and if that's not rewarded, those are things we can do in our schools. Obviously we can do that at home too, but it would be helpful if we could get some more of that in our schools.
I totally agree. Want to talk about Dr. Cartwright for just a moment, and then we're going to talk about some really fun stuff, and that is your book. Dr. Cartwright has been our new superintendent now for about 6 months, I think.
Since July, or the end of July, right?
Okay, so
July,
5 months then, maybe. She's been on the show once. I think she's great. I think she's doing a good job. How does the district feel about what she's doing?
So the board, I know the board is thrilled with the things that she's been able to do since she got here. There were some things that needed to be cleaned up, and she's taken care of all those things. That's what I talked to you about on the phone.
Yep.
I think that she's trying to get out into the community and get herself really enmeshed in Oshkosh. And so I think the community is accepting. I mean, it's Oshkosh, so we're great, and we are really, the community's been amazing with her. I think she still has to really get her feet into like the schools and start really interacting with the teachers, but there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
So she's really she's starting by building her team and getting everybody kind of situated the way she would like to have it situated. We've got some strategic planning coming up, and then I think once the shuffling is kind of settled down, then I think she'll probably start reaching out into the schools and getting more FaceTime with students and with teachers.
Yeah. Well, I know I had the pleasure of having her dinner with her one night a few months back, and she was telling me about her days, that she had been working on to that point. And not just introducing herself and meeting with teachers over the summer months, but with other leaders in the community. Because the school district does not just function on its own.
Not anymore.
It's enmeshed and intertwined with every other agency, if you will, in the community. And so she was meeting with all kinds of people. I was exhausted.
I know it.
Just listening to what she's been doing. I thought, I'm tired. I need a nap.
I know. I'm with you. Yeah.
But I think she's wonderful, and I think she's really going to just do great things for our district. That's my hope anyway. So you are a fascinating individual.
Well, thank you.
I have to say, because I first met you when you ran for school board,
Yes.
and that was, how many, was that?
8 years ago.
Okay, I was thinking-
angry parent.
But being angry about something is usually what moves people into an elected position, or
Yeah.
at least trying for.
Yep.
And see, I was thinking it was about 7, but yeah, 8 years. And where does the time go?
I know it.
Really, sorry, Plant.
That's okay.
You know, but you have a very mixed background, and that's why I think you're so fascinating. I mean, when you were first on the show, when you were running for school board, I said, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do? You were an engineer. You're in chemical engineering and so forth.
Yep.
And you are also, now you're an executive coach, a business coach, a public speaker. You're still an engineer and a chemical engineer. And now you're an author as well.
I know.
I mean, where are you finding the time to do all this?
So, right. So I don't do any more engineering work. So I
Okay.
resigned from that company
Okay.
in 2016.
Okay.
And then I launched my own, my own business. So that's what I do now. So I have my own coaching business. I do some coaching, some consulting, a lot of speaking, and then I wrote a book.
Yeah.
So 2 years into my journey into, building up my coaching practice and developing myself and all the stuff I learned, I just was like, I can't be the only person that knows this, right? Like, I wish someone had written that book when I was, 20
Sure,
years ago.
yeah.
So I wrote the book of all the things that I had learned down that steep learning curve.
Yeah. So a business coach, but then an executive coach. So are you kind of like a lifestyle coach? And do you work just with business people, or do you work with individuals as well?
So I don't work with like a demographic, right? So I always call it a psychographic. So
Okay.
the people that I work with are typically visionary, big idea, people that never run out of ideas. Those are my people. So most of those people are business owners or CEOs or leaders within organizations. So those are the types of people that I work with. That I started in individuals. So I was coaching one-on-one with CEOs and high-level leaders within organizations. And where I've veered into because of that work, then those leaders have said, will you work with my team? And so I started doing that. So now I'm working with groups.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm also doing speaking, which I don't just stand on a stage and speak. I'm really interactive and I try to engage the audience all the time. And I'm loving that. And that too is group. So I kind of don't have a title anymore. I do a lot of things and I don't fit into anything like an engineer anymore. I'm doing lots of different things.
And how did you get the education or the knowledge to become a coach from an engineer?
Right. So I did get trained. I went through a training program. It was an online program because I was still working full time.
Okay.
So, and I didn't tell anybody. So I did it online.
Yep.
And it was a 2-year program. And I was so excited about all the stuff I was learning that I did it in 9 months.
Wow.
I couldn't get it fast enough.
Yeah.
And then from there, so I don't know how many hours anyway. So that's a full-blown certification, and then there's a credentialing process where you get so many hours, and then you go up your level. So I'm doing all of that, and then I spend a small fortune on my own personal and professional development. So I either hire coaches for myself, and I also go to lots of different events.
Okay.
Working with mastermind programs.
Well, the book again is called Think Possible: The Light and Dark Side of Never Running Out of Ideas. How really did the idea for this book come about? Talking about ideas.
Yeah. So I was with my coach and mentor, and we were just on a call, and I was trying to really figure out who were my people, who should I be working with, and we have somebody in our mastermind group, and he said, well, Adam works with the smartest person in the room. Who do you work with? And I was like, I work with the person in the room that doesn't think like everybody else. And he's like, I said, no, they're the people that say it doesn't have to be that way. And he said, that's a great title for a book.
Yeah.
I said, wouldn't that be so fun to write a book? And he's like, if you wrote a book, what would it be about? So he starts asking me questions. Within 30 minutes, we have a closed Facebook group. Within 30 minutes, he created a fake book cover and then a list of chapters of the ideas that I had. And then he said, if somebody could write you a foreword or, promote your book, who would it be? And I was like, Oprah. And he wrote a fake quote by Oprah and threw it on Facebook. And I was like, now I want it. Now I want to do the thing.
Yeah. And so there it was.
Yeah.
Now, is this actually out right now, or does it come out in the new year?
It comes out in February. February 12th,
okay.
I think it's going to be publicly released. It will be online as well as in stores.
Okay.
So I got Morgan James Publishing. They picked up my book, which was super exciting, and so they're working on getting it placed.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, as a local author, I know the library sometimes does
Yes,
things.
yes.
Are you going to be doing
Yes,
something with them?
I've spoken with Sandra Tolland, and we're talking about what that might look like. They said probably when the book comes out, I'll do maybe a book signing or some kind of a
Sure.
book event. But yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored because you've already signed mine.
Yes, I have.
I'll read it when I'm done with this show. But the first chapter, and I will admit, I have not gotten through the whole thing yet because you sent me a PDF copy so
Sure.
that I could prepare for this show. But the first chapter talks about the importance of tribes, and you have a quote in the book that reads, "It seems ironic to me that in an era when all of us can connect more easily than ever, that we are more disconnected and disengaged than ever. This impacts our tribes." And you talked about tribes a little bit earlier when we were
Yeah.
talking about the school district. But we did touch on that. We are so connected that we're becoming disconnected.
And connecting like this is vastly different than connecting like this.
Absolutely.
We're not evolved. This is my theory. I don't know if this is true, but my theory is we are not evolved to connect like this. This isn't connecting. This is how we've evolved. Humans connect this way. So I think this is what gets in the way of that.
Yeah. See, I see it as connecting, but not truly interacting.
There you go.
You know, and this is interacting. We're sharing ideas, we're sharing thoughts, and I'm picking your brain about your book.
Yeah.
You know, but people on social media, they don't do that.
Right.
You know, they think, oh, I've got 1,000 friends on Facebook. Well, so what? At the end of the day, if you're having a really bad, crummy day, how many people do you really have that you can go to and say, you know what, I've had a crappy day.
Yeah.
Let's go get a drink, or let's go have some dinner, or can we just sit and talk on the phone, you know?
Yeah.
And that number is vastly lower than the number of friends that a person can brag about on Facebook.
True.
Or, I'm not picking just on Facebook here, any social media.
Right. Yep.
You know? And we're losing, I think, a lot of, it's connectivity, but it's also a lot of those social norms, social graces of writing a thank you note when someone does something for you, you know, sending out wedding invitations, not by mail, not by, you know, e-greetings. E-greetings are great, and I use them a lot, okay, for certain situations.
Yeah.
But if you're inviting someone to a wedding, I don't think, that's just my feeling, I just don't think that you do it through social media, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, we're using social media for so much. And that breaks my heart. People are no longer sitting down with pen and paper, or paper and card and pen, and writing something, you know?
Yep.
So I totally agree with that point. Now, you talk about suffering from a fear of what others think. And I think most of us can relate to that. I know that for myself, when I was in high school in particular, you know, I didn't really always want to raise my hand to answer a question. And I dreaded the teacher calling on me for fear of, God, what if I have the wrong answer?
Yep.
Or what if I have the right answer, but attention is focused on me, you know? And then what if I have the answer and the teacher asks me something? You know, you think about all those different things, you know? And so you just sit there kind of shrinking down in your seat thinking, you know, trying to make yourself as small as possible in that chair. Please don't call on me.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And how do we overcome that? I've overcome it just over the years as I've gotten older. I say what I think now. I try to say it with grace and diplomacy, but at the end of the day, I don't really care what somebody thinks about what I say.
Yeah.
They're my thoughts, they're my feelings.
Yep.
But how do people really go about overcoming that fear of what people think?
Well, I'll just share with you what I think I've figured out for myself and a lot of my clients, and that is that we all have they're like these voices in our head, right? Like the critical voices, which is the one that talks to me when I'm on TV, like what are people going to think about me, like right now, right? And it's in there and it's talking to me, and it might even prevent me from saying yes to coming on the show. the way that
I'm glad it didn't.
No. So I think what I've learned is that you can't, the voice is always going to be there, always. Like trying to get rid of it, I don't think it's possible. But what is helpful is to try to hear what the voice is trying to say and figure out what purpose does that voice serve. So that the voice isn't my enemy as much as it's just trying to protect me. And when I can go to that place, like, thank you for trying to protect me, but I would still like to go on the show. And then the other voices in my head, the ones that are supportive and wise and kind, I can hear those voices now because the one that is so critical is not as loud. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it really does. You know, one of the things also that I love about your book is, first of all, it's an easy read, and the reason I haven't been able to finish it yet is I just have not had. I just got back from vacation not long ago. You know how that is.
And I just sent it to you.
Yeah, I just got it.
Yeah.
But I'm partway through.
Okay.
I'm about partway through. I like it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's an easy read. And number two, at the end of each chapter, you have 3 different questions of self-realization questions that you pose to the reader.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important, you know, that people have a chance to really focus on those questions and then focus on themselves and answer the questions about themselves.
Agreed.
Did you come up with that idea, or did somebody else come up with it? Or because I think it's a great idea.
Well, it's what I do for a living, and so as I was writing the book, I have. Now that I'm a coach, I have a coach for everything, right? So I have a book coach she helped create a system for me to write a book, right? Because I said, well, I want to write this book. So I wrote the book in 4 months, and all she did was like help me create a system to write it, and then she would help me to get into like a space where I could write. And then I would just like write. And then she's like, just stream of consciousness, and then I would send it to her and she's like, beautiful, next chapter. And I'm like, no, we have to go back and edit and make it all perfect. And she's like, nope, keep going. So I just kept going. And she said, you're so good at asking those questions. What if you just put a few at the end of each chapter?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, beautiful. And she was the other one that said, with the quotes at the beginning of the chapter, she's like, you have so many beautiful quotes. Why don't you throw them in there?
Yeah, we're down to probably about 13 minutes yet, and I can't even believe this, but many of us like to be people pleasers, but you know, at times that can work against us, I think. And how do we change that so that it doesn't work against us, or is it not possible to change it?
Well, I think it is. I always say that there's the distinction, especially for people in leadership positions. If you're a parent, that's a leadership position. If you run a team, that's a leadership. So I don't care what you're leading. But there's this really powerful distinction between pleasing and serving. So my favorite example is you have this 4-year-old child, and he's trying to zipper his coat, and he's trying to zipper, and he can't zipper, and he's getting more frustrated. And I'm his mother, and I can't watch him be frustrated, and so I zipper the coat for him. That's people pleasing. That's a pleasing thing. I'm uncomfortable because he's uncomfortable, and I just want to make it stop. To serve him would be to maybe help him slow down, maybe take a breath, maybe take a walk, whatever, you know, calm down, show him how I do it on my coat, anything but fixing it for him.
Yeah.
And so when we can learn how to serve versus help, please, rescue, enable, fix, all of those things, this is really, really hard. And this calls for us to be really brave, because most of the time this is really, really difficult. But okay, so it's difficult and it's uncomfortable. Do it anyways, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I try to push myself into doing that.
Well, you talked about quotes, and I'm jumping ahead on my questions here, but you have a quote from John Quincy Adams in the very last chapter, because even though I haven't fully read the whole book, I have skipped through it.
Sure.
And in the last chapter, there's a quote from John Quincy Adams, and I love this quote. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And I think that that's a great way to end the book, but you know, to me, and you just were talking about being a leader, if you're a parent or whatever, you know, being a leader is not just having your name in the paper all the time for all these great things that you've done with your company or with your 501c3 or, you know, whatever the case may be. people lead in a lot of different ways and a lot of silent ways.
Yes.
Right? And I think it's important that people understand that about themselves. That just because they're not getting these accolades with names in the paper or a plaque on the wall or whatever, that doesn't mean that they're not significant,
Right.
that they're not making a contribution,
Right.
and that they're not leading in some way, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit
Sure.
about that?
Sure. The people that I work with, what they want, what they mostly want very deeply is to have massive impact. They're not the people that want to be in the paper. They're not the people that want to be have accolades for everything. What they do want is they want to touch a lot of people's lives in a positive and a profound way. And that's a different place. That I always say, who do you become when you get put in charge? Right? Some of us become a boss or a manager. Some of us become influencers, and some of us become leaders. And leaders are the ones that can have massive impact. And it's through building up the people in their own team or in their own organization. It's developing others, seeing that potential, believing in people, and then developing them to become their best selves.
Sure.
And that's how you have massive impact, because then all those people go out and they do the same thing. It ripples.
Right, the ripple effect. I know a lot of times, going back to having ideas or wanting to comment on something in a small group or a large group, and being afraid to, because we fear that if our comment or our idea is rejected, then we are being rejected as
Absolutely.
individuals.
Sure.
And that's a tough one. It really is, Allison, because, okay, they've rejected what I had to say, and we take it personally.
Sure.
And it's hard not to. So how do we not feel rejected as a person, even though what we've said or offered as an idea has been rejected?
I would say that it really helps to know what are your core, like who are you at your core? So do you know Brene Brown? Have you heard of her?
No.
So she's an author and she's a researcher and she does a lot of work in the leadership world. And so she says, if you know what your values are and you can stick to those, then the rest of it doesn't really matter. And so, my value is connecting. That is who I am at my core. And if you just pick one or two, because we can only do one or two things, we can't have a whole, everybody wants to have 20 values. So I would recommend picking one or two. And if my value is connecting, and I say something to you, and you don't agree with it, doesn't matter.
Right.
Because we're still connecting.
Right.
So I think it really gets back to who are you and what are you doing? If you're just here to connect, then it doesn't matter. If I want to connect with you and I want to do business with you, if you don't give me your business, it's okay, because I'm still connected, and that's always my core value.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There's a part in your book where you talk about the difference between fitting in
Oh yeah.
and truly belonging.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that.
So fitting in is changing who you are to be able to
fit in.
Yeah. So that's how I grew up. So so that is the thing that I hid my whole life, is who I am, so that I could fit in. So that was a power tool for me. So you can literally put me anywhere, and I kid you not, I will fit in. Afghanistan, you put me in the inner city of Chicago. I worked in the oil field with dudes that and I was a northern girl. I'm a Yankee. I'm an engineer. All of that, and I fit in.
Yeah.
And that was because I can twist and turn and tweak in order to fit whatever that is.
Sure.
But that means that I'm never me. Belonging is that I don't have to do any of that. And I automatically belong when I don't have to change who I am. And that's what I was so desperate for, but couldn't find.
And I think that's really tough for people to do,
Yeah.
and myself included. I can fit in a lot of different places, and yet I don't know that I'm really changing myself as I am letting other aspects of myself come out in order to relate to
Sure.
people that are in a certain demographic or
Right.
whatever the case may be. I'm still being myself, but I'm just not sharing all the other stuff because it doesn't matter with that particular group of people that I'm with.
Yep.
But to truly belong, then you have to, or you should be able to, without feeling some kind of, some kind of rejection from people, you should be able to let all aspects of yourself out there.
And it's
that's
not
hard.
There's going to be little pockets of belonging in your life. Fitting in, you're going to do a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But what we yearn for and what we want so desperately, I think, as humans, is belonging. And so if you can just find that, even if it's with one or two people, done.
Yeah.
That's all we need. We just need a little.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you can have, the better. But
Sure. Yeah. We're down to about 4 minutes, maybe a little less, and I want to talk about, because I think this is really important. One of the things the book talks about is how easy it is to feel like a failure or realize our own shortcomings because we see someone else on Facebook or other social media who they're doing all these great things. And it happens with, this is the holiday season now, we're kicking it off, and it happens with holiday newsletters too. I can't tell you the number of newsletters I've gotten from people over the years that have just been boastful about all the great things that their family has done.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what happened in the last year that sucked?
Yeah.
See, I do newsletters too, but I put in the good and the bad. And if people don't like it, oh well. It's what happened in that year that I think is important to share with someone, or I just want to share it.
Yes.
So how do we keep from feeling like failures when everybody else is out there doing all these great things in about 2.5 minutes?
Yeah. The easy answer is beware of comparison. Right? Comparing ourselves to others is you'll never win, ever, because there will always be somebody that did it more or did it better or had it in a different way than you did.
Right.
And you never know the whole story about somebody else. So I might compare myself, like as a mother, to other mothers. I have no idea what's going on in their life, but I see what they put on Facebook, and now I feel like a terrible mom because I didn't take my kids to Bali for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
What kind of mother am I?
Yeah.
So the short answer is, try to stay away from comparison if you can, and get back to like, who are you? What are you supposed to, like, what are you on this earth to do with your life? And where are you when you're flowing? And then just do that.
Yeah.
And then don't worry about like what all the other people are doing.
It's great that other people are doing great things, but like you said, we have no idea what else is going on in their life.
No, we don't.
And nor do they know what's going on in our lives.
Right.
And I like that. Comparing yourself, you'll never win.
Ever.
When you try and compare yourself to other people. I'm not going to get to all these questions, but that one actually we just covered.
We're so close.
So very close. If someone has an idea about how to improve something or how to do whatever, how can they go about not only convincing others that it's a great idea, but bringing it to fruition, seeing it through from start to finish?
Yeah, so my clients are typically the visionary, the big idea people, and where they really struggle is the implementation part. So again, the really short answer is find somebody that is super at details and making a plan and following it through, a planner, like somebody that's really skilled at that, or just like that is where they love to be. They don't want responsibility, but man, you give them a list, you give them something to do, and they will fly with it. Like when you can partner those kinds of people together, that's usually where a lot of the ideas can get off the ground.
Okay, super. Thanks so much for being here. We're down to a minute, and so that's time for me to wrap up. The book is called Think Possible, and there it is, Think Possible, The Light and Dark Side of Never Running Out of Ideas. The author is Allison Garner, and I feel very honored, I think, to have you in this community, serving us on the school board, but also, writing this, because even if you're not in a company or whatever, this is just a great book to help an individual focus on things and how to help improve their own lives.
Yep.
So I think it's a great book.
Oh, thank
Coming
you.
out in February of 2019.
Yes.
So look for it at the library or wherever. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to our other guests from earlier, and thanks to the crew and also you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a need to be here. So we will see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.